In this video, we will show you how to replace your auto locking hub vacuum tube kit on this Ford F-150. This will be located partially under your hood and behind your wheels. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on our job. We're under the hood, we're going to make our way along the inboard side of the battery, and right down next to this electrical wiring harness is where we can see our vacuum tubing. Now what we actually need to do here is separate our check valve tubing from the rest of our vacuum line tubing, which is going to lead down behind each one of the wheels. For this, I'm just using an angled pick. I'm going to try to get in between this lower boot. Once we have this broken free, we should be able to slide this down and out of position. Now that we have this separated, the next thing that we're going to have to do is make our way safely under the front of the vehicle. We're going to have to make our way behind the front wheels. You could carefully climb underneath or remove your wheels. I'm going to safely raise and support and remove both of my front wheels. To remove the wheel, we're going to start with the center cover. Typically, you're going to find that it has a small slot for removal. I'm using a small prying device. We'll just go ahead and remove that. A quick inspection, set it aside. To continue removing the wheel, remove all 6 of your 21mm lug nuts and we can get the wheel off of here. Now that we've removed our wheel, we can have a clear look inside this area. I can see where my vacuum lines are leading down along the passenger side wheel well area. We're going to start disconnecting here and we'll continue following the flex hose down and behind our front steering knuckle. Now in this area, you're going to find that you have a plastic locking clip. We want to try to get in and behind this. I'm using an angled pick. Once you get behind it and separate it, you should be able to remove those vacuum lines. We're following that all the way down along the flex hose and we can see our 2 connection points. There's one right here. For this, we just want to grab onto the 2 ears. You should be able to separate them. Typically just do that by hand. When you do separate them, you should be able to pull those vacuum lines up and out of position. We'll just make sure each clip is still in good usable order. Repeat the process for the next one, just a little further down the line. Now you're going to find that the vacuum lines make their way behind the steering knuckle along the front portion, so that's where we're going next. Now up in here, we're going to find that the vacuum lines press onto 2 tabs. We can go ahead and carefully pull on this. Those are attached to our vacuum actuators. Just a quick inspection. We want to confirm each one of the 2 tabs on the vacuum actuator are in good usable order as well. After that, let's continue on. Now as we follow the lines back upward, we're going to make our way up and above our front shock tower. You're going to find 2 mounting points here. For this, I'm just going to be using a trim tool to lift them up and out of place. Here's one. There we are, that piece broke off, that's okay. This comes with our brand new tube, so we'll just go ahead and pull that up and out of place. As for the rest of it, just continue on down the line. We're gonna make our way in and behind this area next. Now behind this area, we can see where our mounting point is. To easily separate this, I'm actually going to do it through this area, directly underneath our upper control arm. You can see where the plastic tab is protruding through. I'm using a hammer and punch. I'll just go ahead and poke this right on through. Let's reach back here. Pull that on out. Now we're going to make our way safely under the front of the vehicle. In this area, we can see our vehicle's frame and we can see our power steering rack. Up against the frame, directly in front of your power steering rack, we can see we have a brake line making our way across and we also have our vacuum line. The vacuum line itself is attached to our brake line. It's just a small plastic hook. Go ahead and carefully pull that out of place. We have some movement there. Let's get this next one. We'll continue on across towards the driver's side. Now for the next mounting point, we're going to make our way directly up above this area. For this, I'm just using an angled pick to try to pry this out of place. It's attached to the brake line, of course. It's the same thing as before, it's just a small plastic hook. Typically, you can just pry that right out of there. We have movement here. We'll make our way all the way over towards the driver's side next. Now, if you were looking up in this area, we're making our way along the side of the frame. This is where we can feel where the vacuum line has another connection point right up to that brake line, just as before. For this, I'm continuing with my angled pick. There we are. Now we'll continue on inside of the driver's side front wheel well. To gain access inside the driver's side wheel well, you'll also have to remove the driver's side front wheel, which is the same process as the passenger side front. Now, once you can make your way inside this area, I'm going to come right up along the back side of my fender liner. This is where we can see where our vacuum tubing connects to the brake line again in this area. I'm using my angled pick. It's very easy to just press this right out of position. Now we'll follow it this way up above our shock tower. Now up above this shock tower, we have another instance where we're going to be using a trim tool to gently pry up on our adapters, holding this in place. There's one. Make our way over to the other side. Perfect. Now we have movement here. We're coming towards the rear of the shock tower next. Now as we make our way down this way, we can see where our vacuum lines are attached to that shock tower. Just like on the other side, I'm using an angled pick. You can use a flat blade screwdriver. We're just going to go ahead and separate this. Follow the lines down. This is going to attach to our brake flex hose next. I don't need to disconnect the ABS wire. I can leave that on there. Just grab onto those two plastic ears, separate them, and slide that vacuum line out and away. Now we can make our way along the inboard side of our front steering knuckle. Now behind the steering knuckle, just above our front axle, we can see where our vacuum tubes connect into our vacuum actuator. Just go ahead and carefully pry those lines up and off of there. We're double checking to make sure there's no damage. Now we can fully remove the lines from this area. Now we have plenty of slack from these lines, we can start removing them. What we want to do here is take the lines and we're going to bring them towards the front of the shock tower and push them into the engine bay. Let's pause inside the driver's side front wheel well. We'll go over to the passenger side and repeat this exact same process. In the passenger side wheel well, we have our vacuum lines. This side actually has the tubing that leads up towards our valve up along the top, so we'll just go ahead and carefully start pulling that down. There's our tube that we had disconnected. Let's bring this over towards the front, going across the top of our shock tower. And just like before, tuck this inside the engine compartment. Now after this, we can make our way safely under the front of the vehicle. Now we're back underneath the center front of the vehicle, behind the frame, in front of our power steering rack. Let's carefully start removing our vacuum line tubing. Just gonna go ahead and start tugging on this. It should slide out of place. There's one side. Get this out of here. All right. There it is, friend. Okay, it's time for installation of our brand new vacuum line kit. For this, we're going to start with the passenger side. The passenger side of this tubing kit also has the T-junction with the line that goes up into the passenger compartment. The other side of this line kit will not have this portion. So we're taking the passenger side of the line. I'm just going to try to fold it as much as possible without putting any kinks, and we'll start sliding it up into position. It's going to go up and past this area in between the power steering rack and that frame right there. Just go ahead and bring it straight up and through. There's that side. Now obviously all of these plastic clips will need to make their way up on top of that shock tower, so all of this needs to get pressed up and in until we get to the portion with the black hooks. Okay. Now we can grab onto that from inside of the passenger side wheel well, but let's pause on that and we're going to make our way over towards the driver's side, repeating this process. We can see our white locking tabs. Those need to go on top of the shock tower on this side. For this side, you really can't bunch it as much. There isn't too much clearance to try to make its way through. We'll bring the tubing up along the frame. Now, as we make our way up along the side of the frame towards that driver's side wheel well, you may find that the lines get caught. We want to be extremely careful not to put a tug and cause any damage. Just go ahead and work your way around, take your time. Now that we have our vacuum tubing along each side of the vehicle, we can continue on in the center. We have our black hooks here. We want to make sure that those are going around the brake line, holding the vacuum lines in place so they are not going to get damaged. Now I've got one right up above this mounting point here. I'm just going to try to press that right onto the brake line. There we are. I've got that one pressed on there. Let's continue on towards the center now. Now we're making our way over towards the passenger side. We're going to reattach this clamp here. Press that onto the brake line. Now we're going to make our way up and above the power steering rack mount. You can see in this area we have another one of our plastic hooked clips. Just going to go ahead and attach that to the brake line. Press that on. Just double check to make sure it's secured along the way. Everything looks good underneath this area. We can make our way up inside the driver's side wheel well. Inside the driver's side wheel well, we're going to start with this portion of our vacuum lines. This is going to go right up in and behind our fender liner. Just flex that, bring it into position. Now for this, you can attach it to either one of the brake lines. As long as it's secured, that's really all that matters here. Okay, we have that pressed on. We can make our adjustments up and down as necessary, but we're going to continue on attaching the line across the top of the shock tower. Now we're attempting to get our vacuum lines in place. Feel along the top of the shock tower. You should find circular ports for these white adapters to press down and into. It should be a tight fit here. Just go ahead and press it down and in, and as you continue on, just make sure it's secured along the way. Once again, we do not want anything getting caught or damaged. Now let's make our way along the back side of the shock tower. We're going to bring this down to its next attachment point here. We just want to try to get this properly aligned, and then we'll go ahead and squeeze that clamp into the locked position. For this, if you need to, you could use some pliers. Just be extremely careful not to cause any damage. Just press that in. Double check, make sure that's secured. Now we're making our way down along the flex hose. As we bring this along the flex hose, we're securing it to its 2 mounting points. We have one here, one right here. Now the very end of it's going to go into the back side of that vacuum actuator. Now behind this area, we can see exactly where these lines need to lead to. You can tell that you've got a whole bunch of extra tubing here. Go ahead and trim that to the size that's needed. Leave a little extra just in case you have to make any adjustments. I can see that it goes right there. Just a quick measurement. You can use cutters, you can use a razor blade, whatever's best for you. Let's try to make a nice clean cut. After completing that, let's secure this in place. The smaller tube is going to go down along the bottom side. The thicker tube will be up along the top side there. We're pressing this on as far as possible. Once you do feel as though you have it on there, just give it a quick wiggle, double checking to make sure it's properly secured. We're over on the passenger side now. Just start pulling the lines up and through here. Now we don't want to go too far. I'm just going to bring it up and above the top of the shock tower. Now that we have that rested in that position, we're going to be paying attention along the back side of this area. We have a white plastic mounting clip that needs to be pressed into its position. Looking along the outboard side of the frame area here, just underneath the control arm, you can see the circular port. Let's line this up and press it in. Now that I have that pressed in, I can confirm that it's definitely secured. And we'll follow the line up and above our shock tower next. We have 2 more mounting points here. We're just trying to find the ports for our mounting points here. Slide that one in, make our way over to the next one. We're going to secure this, but before we do, let's take the upper line here. We want to carefully flex our inside fender liner so we can bring that line up and behind it into the engine compartment. It only really needs to be up in there. Of course, we will secure it once we make our way back up in there. Now that we have that up there, let's bring this down here so we can start securing it. If you found that there was an issue with the clip and it doesn't want to lock, you can use a wire tie if necessary in this area, or just find another one of these clips. We just want to make sure that it's secure. There we are. Now we can follow this down along our flex hose. We're bringing this along the flex hose. We're going to start securing it in place. When I bring this down, I like to have the skinnier portion of the hose facing towards my brake flex hose. That way there, these 2 locking ears are pressing up against it. Now we'll just continue on along the back side of that front steering knuckle. We're going to attach that as well. Now along the back side here, we're going to be trimming the hose as necessary. Once again, I always like to leave myself a little bit of slack here, but obviously we don't want to leave a whole bunch. Just do a quick measurement, a little bit of slack, keeping in mind that it should flex a little bit. Just going to trim a little bit extra. I want to leave myself a little bit. That looks good. Now we can press this on. We have the thicker hose going on to the thicker attachment point. It's lining up, press it all the way on there. Now once it's on, of course, a quick tug. It should not slide out of place. It needs to be secured, and of course just double check, make sure it's not twisted and it can't get damaged in any way. Now that we know that we have this together, just one last quick inspection inside of our front wheel wells. We're going to reinstall both of our front wheels. All right, let's prepare to install our passenger side front wheel. We'll get this in place. Start on all 6 of your 21mm lug nuts. Once they're all bottomed out, we'll get the wheel safely back on the ground. Now, once you have the wheel back on the ground, we're going to continue on torquing each one of our lug nuts to 150 foot-pounds in a crisscross manner. Torqued. If you have a center cover, install that now. Now, when installing your center cover, we want to pay attention to the slot on the center cover itself in comparison to the slot on the wheel. Typically, the slot on the wheel is going to be closest to where your valve stem is located. So let's just go ahead and align each one of these areas, and we'll tap this into place. Perfect. Now I'm back up inside the engine bay after torquing each one of the wheels. We have our vacuum tube. We want to pay attention to the routing. It needs to be in the proper area here. We want to have it as close as possible to the outboard side of the vehicle, closest to that wheel well fender liner. not necessarily next to the valve cover of the engine, which can get hot. We'll be bringing it all the way up here to its connection point. Got the lower tube that just came from the bottom there. Line it up, press it together. This is going to need to go quite a bit further here. I just want to make sure everything's routed perfectly before we go ahead and press it all the way on. Now, once you feel as though you have it properly together, just go ahead and give it a light tug, confirming. Okay, friend, we've got our vehicle back together. The next thing you want to do is go ahead and close the hood. You're going to hop in the passenger compartment, take the vehicle for a road test, and test your four-wheel drive, confirming that it functions as it should. Aside from that, thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.